Hey there everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. I thought I would play around with some alcohol inks and Copic markers on alcohol ink paper, UPO paper to be exact. And this is a really fun technique because with working with alcohol inks, you get a totally unexpected look every time you play with them. Even if you try to replicate the same thing more than once, it's always going to turn out different. And that's what's fun about these. So in today's video, I'm going to be using products from the brand new DieCember collection from Simon Says Stamp. Two of those new products happen to be the Etched Evening Blossom and the Etched Medallion dies. So these two dies are part of the new release, and there are so many other beautiful dies in this collection. DieCember is literally the celebration of die cutting. So what you're seeing me do right now is kind of gather some inspiration. So I have this pack of pattern paper, and initially I actually was going to use pattern paper, but I got inspired so much by these beautiful wispy colors in this craft consortium paper that I wanted to make my own. So I started first by die cutting the etched medallion and also the etched evening blossom. The etched medallion I cut from just plain old white cardstock, but then the etched evening blossom I die cut from UPO paper. This is an alcohol ink cardstock. It's a synthetic surface, so it takes ink differently than a regular cardstock would. And that's what's cool about using this with Copic markers. We're going to use markers first, and then we'll get into using actual alcohol inks. So I am coloring this flower, this die cut flower, with Copic markers. And as I start to blend these colors, you're going to see how these colors don't blend as if they would normally blend on regular cardstock. You're going to see that the color has a tendency to push each other around and move quite a bit, especially when you're working with the lighter colors. The lighter colors have a tendency to push the darker colors around, and that's because they usually contain a lot more blending solution than the darker colors. So I'm working on adding a nice variety of shading and coloring to my flower here. I use 3 different pinks and 2 different greens. And when I'm coloring and mixing the colors here, I am scribbling off onto some scratch paper just to help clean off my nibs of my markers to make sure I don't contaminate the marker with color later on. So here's my finished flower. It's got that gorgeous gloss finish because we used UPO paper. I've now since pulled out another sheet of UPO paper, and we're going to create a background for our flower and medallion. So I took a little bit of blending solution first, and I'm just squirting that in random places around my paper just to get the paper prepped with a little bit of blending solution to help move the colors as I drop them in. So I started off with a blue color, then I pulled in some green. I'll put some pink in some spots here and there, and that's going to mix nice with the blue and create a dusty purple. And then finally, I pulled in a darker teal. Pick out colors that you have that are similar or a totally different color palette, however you want to create. I thought these colors would look really good with the colors that I have in my flower. So I'm going to go ahead and use a Tim Holtz ink blower here. This is an alcohol ink blower, and it's a great tool for moving your alcohol inks around the paper. I'm going for a very wispy look, something very similar to that pattern paper that we had earlier in the video from Craft Consortium. I pulled in blending solution here and there to help not only move the color around a little bit, but also create a few random spots where the ink has pushed itself aside. While the ink is still tacky, this is really fun. I'm using some metallic flakes here, but you could use foil if you rather would do that. Basically, what I'm trying to do is in the tackier spots of my ink, the parts that haven't fully dried completely, I'm laying this metallic flake so that way as I buff it off, any pieces that get left behind are sticking to those tacky ink surfaces and creating almost like a gilded effect. It's really pretty. So my background I've trimmed down a little bit, and I actually will trim it a little bit further down when I finish off the card, but for now I have it at this size, and I'm placing the etched medallion right in the center of my panel with foam tape. I'm also going to attach the flower on the left-hand side of that medallion. That's going to layer up really nicely, give a little bit of separation between the flower and the background, but also add some nice texture too. Okay, so I've pulled out some moonstone droplets here from Lucy's cards. These are semi-transparent. They're not completely transparent, which is kind of cool. So I thought I would color the bottoms of these teardrops. They're really, really pretty, and it's very subtle, but it adds just a little bit more color to those drops. And because I use Copic markers to color them in, that's going to dry very easily on top of that plastic surface because we're using an alcohol-based medium to color this material. So it's going to dry really, really quickly, and we're going to be able to get that great color. I pulled out a few gem stickers from Honeybee Stamps. I have been obsessed with these gem stickers of late. They are literally just the perfect accent for so many different things, and I thought they would work really well for the center of my flower. So I popped a few of those there in the middle. Now that's all it's left to do is to add a sentiment. So I pulled out this birthday greetings mix set from Simon Says Stamp. It's a stamp and coordinating die set. Been around for a little bit, but it's a great staple and it has a really elegant happy birthday greeting in it. So I'm going to ink that up with embossing ink and stamp that onto black cardstock. Then I'll pull out some antique gold embossing powder from Simon Says Stamp so I can heat set that beautiful greeting right on top of that cardstock, and we're going to get a really nice classy finished sentiment here. Like I said, there are coordinating dies, so I will use those to trim down the sentiment. If you don't have the dies, you could just cut this out into a rectangle or fussy cut it with your scissors. I used a couple pieces of foam tape to put that on top of my card, and I did attach it at a little bit of an angle just for some interest in movement. Finally, I'm going to attach my fully trimmed down panel onto an A2 size card, and that leaves me with a nice little bit of a border around each side of this background, so it really trims it up and frames everything nicely. I loved the two finishes that I got with the alcohol inks and the Copic markers, which happen to be an alcohol-based medium. Both of these perform so beautifully on the Yupo paper, which is an alcohol ink cardstock, and it creates a stunning effect. From the wispy background to the really abstract coloring of the florals, I just love the texture and vibrancy of this card. So I hope you were inspired today using this brand new DieCember collection from Simon Says Stamp and the alcohol ink techniques that I've shared today. If you do have any questions, please be sure to leave them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. I try to get back to you as quickly as possible. So please don't hesitate to leave any questions. And I will hope you all have a very, very wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching, and I will be back soon to share more with you all. Bye!